This is Omnisport Africa. We're putting African sport first, live and on demand on your phone, data free on the MTN network in South Africa. T's and C's apply and online at omniaudio.africa, because reading about it tomorrow won't help you today.
Welcome to No Punches Pulled, the boxing show that actually pulls no punches. Colin Nathan keeping you locked in. This week's episode, I'm bringing in the first boxer for No Punches Pulled, who happens to be part of No Doubt Management, promoted by Boxing 5. He is a former unbeaten Gauteng lightweight champion, 8-0. He has recently won 2 weeks ago the South African Youth Sportsman of the Year. Very good looking, very charismatic, very outspoken. Katlego, the Black Cats, Khanyisa. But before we start talking about the awards, firstly, welcome to the show. How are you keeping and how's it going?
Hey, thank you so much, Colin Boza. I'm keeping well, man. It's good to be here and a privilege to be the first boxer that's going to be hosted on your show.
Well, I thought it'd be appropriate because it's not just about boxing. You just recently won the Youth Award, which we're going to get into. But let's talk about boxing and talk about your first starts in boxing. Like, everyone remembers their first moments in boxing. And let's go back when you were captivated by the sport and you thought, okay, this is my first experience in boxing and this is possibly what I want to do.
Jeez. Yeah, man. You're taking me way back, eh? This is now straight out of high school. Young man, trying to find his way, trying to find purpose. Most of the homies got into varsity and I was there like, okay, didn't get exemption, but what can I do? I knew that I was like very good at sports. That was one thing that everybody who knew me, that when it comes to sport, Kat is someone who's like always dedicated, always showing up. So I was like, instead of just chilling this whole year, let me just find something that I could do with myself, you know? Stumbled up in Kempton Park Boxing Club. Man. I can remember walking down. It's like you're walking into an arena. There's stairs and then there's the doors that just pushes wide open. And first thing I just saw was a row of bags. Seeing young kids hitting the bag, old people hitting the bag. I'm like, okay, this is a neutral posy. So it's not like it's just mean, mugging looking people like buff. No. It was very welcoming. Then I'm met by my coach, amateur coach, Mr. Peter Armstrong. Man, that man was a very huge, was this pinnacle of my development, especially in boxing, in mentorship. And I felt at home, man. He welcomed me. He was like, come through, see how it is for you in the first week or so. Try it out, and then you'll decide, you know? Sheesh. Wrapping my hands, learning everything. I'm like, I like this, you know? Obviously, watching TV, watching the Mayweathers and everything. At the time, I think, 2015, it was when Mayweather was going to have his fight against McGregor, or was the build-up to it. Yeah, I was in it. I was pumped. And the minute I threw my first jab at the bag, I was hooked, just like that.
It's important to mention that Peter Armstrong is one of the greatest amateur coaches in South African boxing history. Produced Jackson Chalky, the Olympian from 2008, many South African champions. Sure. He gives his fighters, besides values in life, a very good foundation and decent, very good fundamentals in boxing. Very good on technique as well. A very patient trainer as well. The kids who've crossed over to the professional ranks to my company from his amateur club are well schooled and well conditioned and obviously know technically how to box. What was your experience like on your first sparring session? Because, you know, it sounds glamorous getting in the ring and fighting, and it sounds glamorous shadow boxing, or rather looks glamorous, and it looks great hitting a bag, but as soon as you get punched in your snot locker, your nose, everything kind of changes. Tell us about your first sparring. Do you remember that, and who was it again? Do you even remember who it was?
Jeez. Yes, actually, I do. But funny enough, before I start there, you know, there's the famous saying that it goes around the Tyson's statement of everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face. I feel like another way of that is that everyone wants to be a fighter also until they get that first clean punch landed in their face. I feel like that's what determines if you're gonna wanna stay long in the sport and you feel like you got the guts to keep going. So my first sparring was against Sheldon Schultz, which was actually someone I had to fight for the Gauteng position back in 2016, I should say. Now, number one is Sheldon is quite taller than me, man.
Southpaw as well.
Southpaw, exactly. Yeah. So he hit me with the Southpaw killer because that's the punch you should go with whenever you're going against a Southpaw. Man, yeah, no, it rocked me. It rocked me, I will not lie. And it was flush in the nose. Eyes started watering. I held the snot in, though. I held the snot in. But, geez, after that, it was like, have you seen most people who had bullies growing up? They'll tell you that after they had that first fight with that bully, they became friends. And that was actually a beginning of a long-going friendship between me and Sheldon and a lot of other my sparring and gym partners at the gym.
So you had a very good amateur career. You won the South African Amateur Championships twice.
So,
what was the experience for you like as an amateur compared to, well, obviously we're going to start talking about your professional career, but what was it like as an amateur boxer? Like, do you remember your first fights? Obviously, did you win or lose that first fight?
So I'm a very fit guy. So coming into the sport, stamina was usually my thing. Losing weight was not my thing. So believe it or not, in the amateurs I fought in the welterweight category, which was like from 66 to 72, I think. That was a category that I fought from 66 to 69. Sorry. Number one, because I didn't want to lose. I was like, hell no. I'm not going to be starving myself. Already, I'm a Ntana from Tembisa. I'm running all the way from Tembisa to Kempton Park. Now you're going to want me to... No ways. I'm just going to take the punches in this division. And that's where else actually my footwork also came in. Because I come from basketball. I have a basketball background. I'm very good with my feet. So what I do is I tire these guys out. So my first fight goes in, I'm running. Remembering that first punch that landed from Sheldon Schultz. And at that time, we were not, the rule of no headgear was a thing for amateurs because I was already over the age of 17. So I'm coming in, I'm seeing those 10-ounce gloves. I'm like, hell no, I'm going to get on the bicycle and I'm going to move. Throwing my jabs. I see coaches like, no, you got 3 minutes, you need to go, work, Katlego. I'm like, coach, these punches, As we're working, round 2, end of round 2, coach is like, show me something. We've been working, show me something. Like all the skills that you've been learning with the gym, with all the guys, you got to put it into play. Let's see what you got. So now I start realizing from there onwards, like round 3, I come out, this guy's breathing heavy. Now things are slowing down. I'm like, now this is my opportunity now. Putting in not pulling the punches, throwing combinations. Look, I'm not saying I'm a natural, but a lot of things came easy because believe it or not, I'm right-handed, left-footed. So switching was already a habit that was in me, but Coach Peter had me in the basics of getting orthodox first. So moving around, changing southpaw, I remember I don't think I took more than 5 punches in that fight, and I won unanimous decision from the judges.
So you won the essays twice as an amateur.
Yes, sir.
Tell us the first moment, and how many times did you participate in the South African National Amateurs?
3 times.
3 times. How did you do in the first time?
The first time I was knocked out not knocked out, but like I lost in the semi-finals.
Do you remember against who?
It was a gent from KZN. No. I'd be lying if I said I remembered.
And the second time, the next year, you came back and you won nationals.
Yes, sir.
And tell me about that experience about winning gold after the disappointment the year before of getting stopped in the semis.
You see, the main beautiful thing about boxing, what I loved, is it got me to travel, Carl. Like, the first one was, I think, when I lost, they happened in East London. Was my first time getting on a bus. You know the vibes with your friends and everyone traveling together to a whole different province. It was a beautiful thing, and that's what made me love the sport even more and want to sacrifice for it, because I saw the opportunities of the sightseeing, seeing places I've never been to, you know, and it being in Mdantsane, that was pressure, man. Are we talking the first ones that I won or the first ones that I
First time you won.
Oh, first time I won. Oh, no. So the first time I won, it was in Mpumalanga, Graceland Casino. So, sure, the experience is wild, man. The traveling, like I say, seeing the places, and then I actually had the most fights there at that tournament because there were 2 fights that had to happen before the quarterfinals, then semis, and then finals. So in my division, it was packed. Most people are around about there. Like you say, the ones that don't want to lose weight or like to chow. I was amongst them. Although with me, it was like, yeah, I don't wanna be lower or like starving before any kind of fight. I can pick my weight up. I can go. So Mpumalanga, cold. First 2 fights, leisurely breeze, I could say. First guy, kind of like inexperienced, unanimous decision. Second fight before the quarterfinals, unanimous decision. And then semis, it was a gent. Quarterfinals, it was a gent from KZN. Now, you know, with KZN fighters, they're prideful. They stand tall, and he wanted to walk me down. That was one of my first tests because I'm used to, in amateurs, we're always bouncing. We're always, trying to move quick. He was cutting corners, pushing me to the corner, trying to see what I can do. But like I said, always get on my bicycle, move around. Jabbed, jab was my winning point. Got the points as he swung, got out, leave him in the corner, jab. Now it was semi-finals. Eastern Cape, everybody knows Eastern Cape boxers are known to be flashy and, changing levels, that swaying motion.
Lots of triggers.
Exactly, lots of triggers with them quick jabs. I had a hard time with that guy. I did. And from after the quarterfinal, seeing how the guy cut me off, I actually took that with me to that fight. I was like, okay, I know I have more stamina. I can keep up my throwing the punches and being a pressure cooker. Even though he's too slick, I'm not going to outbox him. But I'll throw him and I'll outbully him because I think I was just his height and he was not as stocky. That's how I won. Just pushed him from corner to corner. As much as he made me miss, of that 5 punches, I probably missed 3 but landed 2. But off of that, he landed 1 and, okay, over him. Now we're going to finals. Another Eastern Cape gent. I'm like, yo, sheesh. Because now my only weapon was pushing him back, being a pressure fighter. Most of them can be slick. So I kind of know what he's going to come with, but they also know that I can only deal with boxers by being a power punch, not a power punch, a pressure cooker, cutting corners and everything. So similar thing, but I decoded him because I saw his hands were higher. So as much as he saw that I was throwing a lot of bowlers and coming in, so he wanted to protect his head a lot. So came in with his kind of style, triggering, and then my main thing was the body because he was kind of a bit taller than me. As much as he was slick and smarter, I was like, okay, I'm gonna hit the body. If the hands drop, I'm gonna go for the head. But fortunately enough, I stopped him with the body shot. That was round 3, and I was my first South African champion title, man.
How did that make you feel? I mean, do you remember the moment was like, And how long have you been boxing at that stage for?
At that stage, I was like 5 years as an amateur.
5 years. So it all came together that day.
All came
I think
together.
it's important to note for the listeners as well that on the amateur level, you weigh in every time. So was that also a factor for you not wanting to cut weight, knowing that, you know, you could fight on Monday and then on Wednesday you have to fight again, but have to make weight again?
100%, because I'd be seeing a lot of my guys in my stables having to like chow, and then after chowing they have to go and run, you know, and like the night before they're getting drained. You can see them in the morning. It's like, nah, that's not a state that I want to be in. So like I said, not that I was lazy, but I just knew how to handle myself as, okay, if they're big guys, I know I can tire them out. If they're smarter guys, I'll have to be smarter. But I'm not going to have myself on a negative trying to make weight or constantly eating and being uncomfortable in a mental state and then supposedly probably losing a fight because I'm not comfortable. So comfortability was a main thing for me, without a doubt.
So you won the essays for the first time in Mpumalanga. Your second essays was in where? Won?
In Kimberley.
Which was sweeter?
The first one.
Why?
The first one is the best because a lot of the coaches were telling my coach that you're putting this boy too early.
Right.
He's not ready. He's only been boxing for 3 years. You saw what happened to him in the previous championships. But my coach was like, he was confident because he knew, he prepared me, he knew my ability. But as I say, there were a lot of chats and doubts behind me, like, he's still new, making the team. You'd want to even consider him to be the nationals.
So in the second time that you won the championships, did you fight anyone that you fought previously the year before going to win gold for the second time?
Indeed. So there was, after winning my first SA championships, there were trials that had to happen to go to be part of the SA team that now travels abroad and fights like zone 4s and all that. So that was the first time I actually got rocked in boxing. So I fought a guy from Limpopo, stocky, big. I was like, okay, I always have fun when the guys are bigger because I know, okay, he's going to gas out or anything. But one thing I didn't expect this guy to do was to storm in, coming in and being the pressure cooker this time around. He caught me. To me, I thought it was a clothesline, but it was like his front two knuckles and he swung. Got me in the temple. I'm telling you, Cole, I wanted to move that way. My legs were like wobbly, man. It was hectic. So I lost my opportunity to make the SA team. And after that day onwards, I was like, I need to fight this guy. I need to find this guy again. My prayers were answered in the essays, round 2. He was my quarterfinal, challenge. It felt so good outboxing him, knowing that his only strength was that hook, that right hook, and showing my smarts, being able to avoid him taking that right hand that he had away from him. It just made him look like he couldn't box at all. And that's what I love about boxing as well. Like being able to figure out your opponent is a wonderful thing. When things get tough, being able to find solutions in there. Like sometimes as much as you can get advice in the corner, when you are the one that's facing the music, you have to make the decision on the spot. And I mean, that's one thing that I just constantly love about the sport. Like there's nothing, I can't say it prepares you for life, but it's just as unpredictable as life.
Very good point. 2019, Katlego turns professional. Why did you cross over, being a 2-time national champion? I actually vaguely remember seeing you at the invitation against Mauritius, or there were a few African countries at Transnet. There was only one fighter that day who won from South Africa. That was Jason Paul. All the other guys, including yourself, unfortunately lost. What was your decision to cross over to professionals?
So it was most definitely seeing myself as time. seeing a lot of boxers, especially in the US, because the US is one of the biggest influence in boxing. And obviously, if you don't see yourself being a contender fighting against them, you're not being realistic unless you're not chasing for world title level. So now, like I said, I'm now 21, second SA title. I'm looking at people like the Shakur Stevenson's coming up. I'm like, this kid is 16 and he's already, what's going on? So I need to get into the pro game and see, because this was a dream. This was a dream for me. It became something. It first was something when I got out of high school to push time. Then it transformed and became something that developed my character and me wanting to achieve the highest level in the sport, because we just naturally people who are competitive. And I felt like it's now or never, honestly.
Is it fair to say that every amateur fighter is there to become a professional fighter to fulfill a dream of becoming a champion and obviously wanting a belt around his or her waist?
I'd say 100%. Although I know a lot of other boxers who were just there for the amateurs and wanting to go into the Olympics, and we just have all different dreams. But I can attest that for most of the percentage of fighters who go from amateur, they want to be able to raise that either green and gold belt, being announced as and the new.
Yeah.
Come on.
So you turned pro with Harold Forbracht, one of the legendary figures and trainers and fighters for South African boxing. And then COVID hit, which was a nasty time for everyone in the world, including boxers, because there was just no action. You then made the decision to come to No Doubt Management, my team, and you are currently unbeaten in 8 fights. But the transition I've seen from a management perspective, just watching you, has just been phenomenal. I've seen you grow from a young kid who was just moving around and really not sitting on his punches to now being spiteful with your shots. And, you know, you've won half your fights by stoppage or by knockouts. You are a volume puncher, so I will agree with you on the work rate. But in terms of the professional code and the amateur code, what would you say is the main difference?
Pace. I'd say pace and more strategy. I will not lie, in amateurs, as much as we know the basics, if someone is taller than you, go for the body. If someone is shorter than you, use your range, keep your jab. But there's a huge difference between 3-minute rounds. I mean, even 8-minute rounds, you start to have to dig deep. And if you don't pace yourself, it could end badly. So most definitely pacing, being able to pace yourself in the ring, and strategy, being able to understand what this person's strengths are and how you can use your own strengths against them.
We were faced with a bit of a crisis situation in your third fight where you were from the 4-round level, and then ESPN Africa called me up and they said, look, we are fight short. We want to push your kid for 6 rounds, but would he be able to do 8 rounds? And it's something in my career that I'm known for, grooming fighters at the right pace. And obviously I have to present all the opportunities to my fighters. And I was presented to you and I said, look, I remember telling the coordinator at the time, saying, look, I'm not crazy on the idea, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to test him in sparring in 2 days' time to see if he can handle the pace of 8 rounds. When you were presented with that, I know you said yes straight away, but why did you say yes straight away? Even considering your 2 previous fights were all 4-rounders, and now you're jumping in to a duration that's double the duration of 4 rounds.
I believed I was ready, Cole. I believed I was ready because remember, in the hot box gym, I was now sparring against people like Lerato Dlamini. I mean, everybody knows that when you're in there with Lerato Dlamini, if you're going to play around, you will get hurt, and being able to handle myself against top fighters like that, it reassured me. It reassured me, and I'm sure as yourself as a coach, you saw that, okay, if push comes to shove, kid knows how to bite down. And
yeah, I don't want to talk about biting down because it's also important to mention you fought a friend of yours, Sipho Mshlangu, who was also a very good amateur, fight with inside program kid, well-schooled. He buzzed you a couple of times, but in the fourth round, you threw an uppercut and you literally broke your hand. And it wasn't a hairline fracture. The bone had broken in half.
Straight up.
You came back to the corner and I recall you telling me, my hand's gone. And it could have been the fourth or the fifth round. And I said to you, look, it's a tight fight. You can win this fight. Bite down hard, you still have another hand. And you ended up getting a split decision, which was really, really a tight fight. How was that experience, knowing that you didn't know at the time that it was a clean break, but knowing that you were in this immense pain and you still had 3 rounds to go? How did that make you feel at that point?
It showed how much I'm invested in the sport and how much I'm invested in winning in general. You're not going to come into the sport half-minded and thinking you're just going to, let me just test it out and think you're going to turn professional with that mentality. You will definitely get hurt. The most I've ever been tested in my life, I feel like, was in the boxing ring. Whether I'm tired, whether I'm hurt. And that fight with Sipho Mshlangu, man, was a test of, in the ring when I broke my hand, how badly do I want it? Before the fight was happening, my friendship with Sipho was on the line. Although we spoke about it, but as homies, we always know there'll be those underlying things of he wants to be the best, I want to be the best. We've never fought in amateurs, we've only sparred, but it was bound to happen at some point. And it's going to be up to who wants it most. And I believe that moment is where I actually realized that I'm in it to win it. There's no turning back now, especially when you told me that, because I felt pins and needles, the pain is there, but I'm like, it's the first time that I'm feeling this sensation in my hand. What's going on? I can't, even when I try and clench the glove, I just feel like an electric shock going up the arm. But I was like, I can't let it go now. If I leave it on the table right now, what would happen if it was for a world title?
So you had surgery afterwards, and a very interesting story which I want to share with everyone is, for your next fight, you changed and trained for 6 weeks as a southpaw. In fact, if I recall the training camp, not once did you go back to being an orthodox fighter, and this was because you were worried about your hand, how it healed. You had your next fight, you won that. In fact, you won that on a stoppage, and you said to me, in fact, someone came up to me afterwards and said, since when is Katlego a southpaw? And it looked so natural on that night that you were a southpaw that it really kind of showed that, listen, this kid's very versatile. He can't just fight in one position. He's got the IQ and the commitment to change. How was that process for 6 weeks just boxing as a southpaw?
It was challenging. It was very challenging, I won't lie, because like we said, growing up, I was always, being a volume puncher means you have to use both hands. Jabbing with the right hand, I got comfortable, but what I was happy about is that my stance, my footwork, I felt good. I had a proper base. And all thanks to, even Boxrec has me as a southpaw boxer. I'm not complaining.
Yeah, for sure.
So it felt natural to a certain point, because I don't know if I've also told you, like I said, I'm right-handed, but my dominant foot is my left foot. So it felt okay to have my left foot at the back and being my base. It's just now teaching my right hand to be the one that throws the killer punch, or how to generate that rotation off of it. So everything, I should say, the biggest challenge was trying to make sure I turn the first when I throw the jab, because obviously there's the punt jab, and then there's the one obviously when you want to push him back. So those were always at the back of my mind, thinking, the pain, that mental block. it did take a while. It did take a while for me to get over. But the confidence in me being balanced in that position made it a breeze, if I could say.
September last year, you fought for the Gauteng Lightweight Championship against Talent Baloy, unbeaten fighter from Sebastian Rothman. Also, outstanding amateur. On paper, it was really a balanced fight, 50-50. For me, it was the reason why I really wanted the fight and I was confident was I thought this would be a true indication of where Katlego Khanyisa would go. And it turned out to be a split decision, but in my opinion, I thought we won clearly. Talent was very game. You punished him to the body. Was that your hardest fight as a professional? Or what was your hardest fight and why as a professional?
My hardest fight as a professional will hands down be against Sipho. Yes. The thing is, it's easy when you getting into a ring with someone that you don't know. It's easy to make up bad blood stories as to why I need to beat this guy. But now, with Sipho Mahlangu, it was like, I'm going in there with a brother. We've been to Mauritius together. We've shared food. We've shared probably even like sleeping court, like a bunk bed at some point. And as we're going away and seeing all these provinces fighting for essays. So now to be able to get into the ring and switch that mindset on and be like, okay, as much as you've been through all these things with this person, they are now in the way. And something has to be done. You want it just as bad, unless you're willing to just give it up just for friendship. Hey, then that's who you are. But that's not who I am. So breaking that hand could have been an easy excuse. No, I don't want to fight anymore, but I had to see the end of that. And coming out of there, what I was most happy and grateful about is that we could still hug one another and, still be in contact. Even till today, we help each other with sparring.
Yes.
But without a doubt, hardest test of my life.
So Katlego Khanyisa as an amateur didn't want to lose weight. You then came up to me after you beat Talent and you said to me, Coach, listen, I want to try dropping down a division. And I was like, well, very rarely fighters do that. They normally go up. What was your decision to have that mind shift and mindset of, I'm a professional fighter now, I have to cut weight? Is it because there's only one way in? Or was it because you found that you were making the lightweights really easily?
Making the lightweights easily, I wouldn't say 100%. But remember, in the sport, the more advantages you have, or the better options of, how can I put it, competing opens more avenues for you, So I felt, and it is a dream for me, I want to become a multiple division champion, I had to sit down with myself, obviously, and test myself and see if it was actually possible. Because like you say, I was, no ways, losing weight, amateurs, But now, as the dream got bigger, the sacrifices came with it as well. So it was at that very moment where I had to decide that, okay, and what is sacrificing a few kilograms to being a multiple division champion?
Right.
And like you say, with the lightweights, I could feel like I could take punches. Like if I could take punches from people who are 69 at amateurs, if anything, I'll have the upper hand when I go to a lower division, which has proved. I mean, I think, no, it's only the one fight where I was in the super featherweight division, getting the knockout. But the most important thing for me was how I felt when I got into the ring after that first introduction in that division. And from there onwards, I saw that the dream was very possible, that being a multiple division champion is actually closer than I think.
I want to talk about your roots, and you are very proud to tell anyone and everyone who will listen to you that you're proudly from Tembisa. There have been some very good fighters back in the day from Tembisa, including our matchmaker, who's probably the most prolific matchmaker in South African boxing, currently AB Manisi Little Rock. And he's a phenomenal matchmaker and was a really, really good fighter. And Jackson Chalke as well is from Tembisa as well, the current IBO flyweight champion of the world.
The Dow twins.
So how does the community embrace Katlego Khanyisa?
Oh man, I honestly feel it more from the youngsters that I help. So more especially, I feel more fulfilled when I help the young cadet, the South African champion Wilson Malema, who's a young kid coming up, and I see myself in him, and I feel so fulfilled because I always think back and like, what if I just started boxing at a young age? Where would I be today? And I told myself, you know what, instead of just trying to go back in time, which is not possible, I can help this kid from the same township as me, who is just as hungry or even hungrier, who knows, to be able to reach and surpass my dreams and my current activities. That just gives me, whether the people in my hometown saying, yeah, but you left, now you're staying in Birchacre, people will always talk. And I'm sure you're someone who actually gets it a lot. People will always talk.
Yeah.
But what fulfills me and why I do this is I have to make sure that my own impact is what makes me happy. What everyone has to say, zap, 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 zap.
Yeah, zap again, especially from me. Black Cat, your nickname. How did that come about?
Elimnyama. So, Ikat Elimnyama is like Black Cat in Zulu.
Okay. Like Noma Ganjani is in Zulu.
Ijalo. So, there were not a lot of prospect fighters coming out of my hometown, to be honest. Like, you can count them in one hand, to be honest. And I saw it as me being the black sheep of my community. Like, a lot of kids aspire to go and be in soccer fields. See, when it comes to Diski, ask Papai Kaslam. There's too many dope soccer players coming out.
Our producer's nodding and he's agreeing with you.
But a lot of people were like, boxing? What do you mean? Like, the last time we watched boxing was back when Baby J came on SABC2. Now we don't even see. So, in my mind, I saw myself as the black sheep, where the black comes in. And
not because of your skin tone.
No. Not because of my melanin pigmentation. Nah. So, and then as spelled as BLACC.
Correct. Yeah, it's important for the listeners and viewers to take note of that.
And then the cat as the first three letters of my name, Katlego. Although, I don't want to say spirit animal, but my favorite animal is a jaguar. And it falls together. So the cat represents a lone, strong, characteristic cat who's black.
Right. 27 years old. The world's your oyster. Young, ambitious, good-looking, charismatic. You recently walked away with the South African Youth Sportsman of the Year award, which I want to talk about. How did that come about, and how was the nominating process, and how was the interview? Because, I mean, like I said, good-looking, charismatic, talk a good game, you back it up. How was that experience for you?
Yes. To be honest, I saw the post on Coach Lucky's status. Like, he nonchalantly posts like, yeah, if you feel like you've done a lot in your field and you trust that you got what it takes, do the things. That was literally his caption. Seeing South African Youth Awards. You know what? What do I have to lose? You know? The South African champion is running away, so I can be the South African Youth Awards. At least, because that's what I wanted in this year. I was like, in my goals, it was to be South African champion. But I was like, okay, let's see. I believe I'm impactful to a manner that I should be a good candidate for this. They ask a couple of questions. So it's a link. You don't get voted. You nominate yourself basically, because they ask you questions as to why do you feel that you should. Why do you feel like you are a person who should be recognized for your achievement in your career or in your sport or in whatever you do? Because there's different categories, and I definitely went for the sporting, but I believe there was more that I'm doing within my sport that deems me worthy for this. So I did it. I signed up, filled up the Google forms, gave them all the details. A month later, I get an email saying, yeah, congratulations, you are finalist. Hey, finalist? Hey, not even, there's no picket. Finalist. Like, geez, okay, I didn't think so much of what I do and the impact I have on these young kids, or giving back to my amateur boxing gym, or my own accolades of what I've achieved. Of course, I'm undefeated, but I didn't know the country would actually see it as something that is so worthy. So, yeah, man, it was something that made me realize that don't ever see yourself too small to achieving something, because the moment you already stop yourself from even trying, you'll never know what your limitations or what are you actually capable of achieving in your life. So that was a very big lesson that I learned from just filling up a Google Forms for 10 minutes.
Katlego, the Black Cat, Khanyisa, South African youth sportsman of the year, unbeaten in 8 fights. Watch his smoke for 2025. Thanks for tuning in to No Punches Pulled. Cats, have a good Christmas. I'm going to be kicking your ass from January, so enjoy the break and not seeing my face for a while. Thanks for tuning in. We will see you again next week.
Thank you, Poza. Elimnyama out.
This is Omnisport Africa. We're putting African sport first, live and on demand on your phone, data free on the MTN network in South Africa. T's and C's apply, and online at omniaudio.africa. Because reading about it tomorrow won't help you today.